Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guests, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about how our life ebbs and flows, waxes and wanes. What do we go through? What do we experience? The challenges we have? Perhaps the walls that we've had to knock down? Or maybe the walls that we just sit on the other side and say, I'm waiting for something to change. What is it all about? Is it about how we navigate our world? It is how we perhaps perceive our life? Or maybe it is our checklist so we can get to that obituary at the end. What is the story we are weaving? What is the thread that we are using to navigate? And also, what are the truths and the beliefs that set us out on the road in the first place? Are we able to actually say, I'm going through this, I will get through this, I will get to the other side, and I will find peace, love, and joy? Well, you know what? So many times people say that's what it's supposed to be, but you know what? 99.9% of the time, you might just be hitting another ebb and flow time, and it's okay. Here's the point. The point is that life is changing. It's evolving. There are many things that are different. No matter what decade of life you live in, what generation you are in, what you've gone through, what you're experiencing now, everything is shifting. And please remember that, because sometimes when we hear, but you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't have done that, all we just do is have this bag on our behind that says regrets and losses and guilt, and we just don't need to carry that. Today, my guest is Christine Fruehwirth. Her book is Surviving Life's Storms and Thriving in the Aftermath. Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you, I think, Christine, to talk about the ups and downs of this world. You know, I myself, almost 70, and I look at it and I have a conversation with my kids who are in their 40s and then still with those in the 20s, and I'm going, wow, I feel like we are on different planets, don't you think?
Yes, actually, my children are 19 to 24, and I also work with a lot of young adults in my practice. So, yes, I agree there's a divide for sure.
Yeah, it's like they've had different experiences, they've had different obstacles, and the way in which they navigate them is truly a whole different set of tools, don't you think?
I do, yes. I mean, they definitely, their whole world has been around social media and the internet, so it's very different than, I'm 56 and you're older than I am, and we clearly had a different childhood and adolescence and even young adulthood than they've experienced, and I think it certainly has shaped them positively and negatively.
Yeah, you know, I look at it, and myself and those in my generation, 70s and 80s, we talk about it all the time. We say, this is what we went through, and I think we talk about it because we wish to be able to share our memories of where we have been. Because I can say, if you grew up in the 50s and 60s, the world was different. The information you got was in the newspaper or the corner library of the old books. That was it. All of your relatives lived within a 1-mile radius for decades. And what you learned or where you were going to go forward was very limited at that time. People don't even realize it. I mean, I can remember getting the first TV. Our telephones were party phones, you know. So it's not like we had social media. How many phones do we have and how many TVs do we have? So we have to understand, I think also, Christine, is that the humans that are on the world at this time expand many generations and many ways of communicating, and they're all engaging each other. How do we even navigate that terrain?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because in my book I talk about my grandparents who passed away 4 years ago now from COVID. Married 78 years. They were 98 and 100 when they passed away. They never even looked at a computer. Didn't want to. They had smartphones, but they preferred flip phones and their landline. But they were able to honestly really connect with my children. My children were blessed to have known them. And there's something that they still remember about them as just sitting and playing cards or other types of board games and just listening to their stories. And I think that they will always remember them. It's that greatest generation that I personally think about a lot. Not to get into a political conversation, but, the greatest generation, what they built for this country and what they fought for. And their values are a huge influence on me. I don't know, but this younger generation in general, they don't have that greatest generation, and even the baby boomers, I think that they don't really connect well with the baby boomer generation.
Right.
And I think it's part of it's technology, but part of it I think is just different values. And one of the things about that they're facing is, there's this efficiency that goes on in the world. Like you literally have the world in your hand on a phone, but it also, I find what I'm finding is there's a lot more distraction. This generation, they tend to, I'm not a big fan of TikTok because I just think that they have difficulty communicating with adults. My thing is helping young adults. I taught for 10 years in 2 prominent universities in D.C., and I really worked on communication skills, looking people in the eye, how to network, how to interview, and really try to interact with people and connect with people like human. And it's definitely lacking, but I know I've made an impact on those people that have worked with me and my students at the university level. And I know I've had an impact even on my children and their friends because they ask me to help them as well. So I do think that those skill sets are lacking, but that's why I do what I do. So I have 2 different groups I work with, primarily women returning to the workplace or working moms trying to have balance in their lives. But I really have been focusing a lot on young adults and how they navigate in the world.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because truly, if you look at it, it's how our life cycle evolves. Many patients that I work with at end of life, what happens is that the children and the grandchildren are observing the end of life time, and they're observing the stories and the memories, or the cleaning up of the house afterward, what's left behind, or how people reminisce and think about them at the time of their death, or even 10 or 20 years later. And I think it's about being able to say, we're losing some of that, so to speak. I can distinctly remember, you talk about your book. It says the 4 stages of living. You talk about survive, stabilize, emerge, and thrive. And what I really think about back into the 50s and 60s again is when something really happened in the family or whatever, the phone, they might pick it up, or, hey, they'd go visit somebody. Everybody would come in to help each other. They'd get it through, and then all go back to their own homes and mosey on. People were able to take care of the situations, help each other through life changes or death or grief or whatever it might be, or struggles. And then they all learned from each other how to navigate the world. I think the idea is that we have come to the point where, are we giving the power of learning to navigate the world to someone or something else? Or are we saying that the world outside is doing something to me, and then we stick a label on ourselves? That word trauma has come up, and that's such I don't want to give it another label, but to me it's like, okay, it's whatever. It doesn't even phase in my brain because I think everybody has something in their history that they've all gone through. And then to stick a label of that on yourself, that's almost like a validation to have to find a fix or a repair or I have to repent or whatever it might be. And a lot of people end up getting stuck there, and they end up with this badge that it's their identity. You know what I mean? And it isn't your identity. It's what you went through, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you're familiar with the fact that there's big T's and little T's, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I totally agree that, you know, you don't want trauma to be your limiting belief in life, for sure. I think we all have had some kind of trauma. You know, everyone's had issues with their childhoods, their upbringing, their sibling interactions. I don't know a single person that has had the perfect upbringing. Right. They might have a very, healthy family, but there's always some dynamic that I think some people might say that's traumatizing, or some people might look at it as, you know, this is something that's happened to me that will not define me. And that's the kind of people I like to help is otherwise the trauma becomes such a big weight that you're carrying around that you can't move forward. Right.
But I think it's almost as if it's a concept of outside happening to me and a loss of power. Right. And then we see people saying, well, I have to get my power back. You know, I can honestly remember there was a generation there, and they were saying if you get a divorce or you have an abused person or whatever it might be, or loss of a job or whatever, you always want to get your power back. And I'm going, oh, please don't take the power back from them that's tainted. Please grow your own power from inside. You know?
Exactly.
You don't want that outside power that has those fragments or those words or those imprints, you know, from before. Because then you see people doing revenge and everything. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Happiness has to come from within. Fulfillment has to come from within. Right. So I'm divorced. I got divorced, and I don't say I'm a divorced woman. I say I'm a strong woman who has been divorced or have gone through a divorce. It doesn't define me. Right. So, you know, you mentioned divorce. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that people need to work on from a spiritual standpoint is obviously believe in a higher power, but the power does come from within. You don't control everything that happens to you, but my book talks about that. Like, you know, but in order to really thrive, it has to come from within. In order to be, you know, find your life purpose. If you're living your life purpose, you're going to be fulfilled and you're going to be happier and you're going to be able to thrive.
Right. But I think also, too, the idea of when you first hit the beginning of an experience, I call it, and when you hit that experience, it's about sitting in there and feeling it and going through it. A lot of times people try to jump it and they say, like the word grief, you know, oh, you're only supposed to have grief for 2 weeks. And then on the, you know, one day past the 2 weeks, you better not have it anymore or something's wrong with you kind of idea, you know?
Right.
And I think if we get stuck in that, we say that I'm in this experience, for however long that experience is for you, is however long it needs to be. If it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, it is whatever it is. And I think sometimes most of the reflection is when you can say, oh, I'm not there anymore. Isn't that awesome? And then you progress to the next step. Or you then feel that you have healed, or, you know, all of those other words you might want to tag on to it. But in essence, you see that was a moment in time. That's what you went through, and this is how you feel now. And that's the healthy way to be able to progress through, yes?
Yeah. I mean, the timetable, I mean, certain religions have what they call the mourning period, if you want to talk about grief, but it gives you some guidelines. But I think everybody has to, whatever situations that you're, difficult situations or setbacks that you're dealing with, you do have to give yourself time to process.
Right.
One of the things that I talk about, and I'm going to dig into even more after this book, is just this whole concept of like denial, you know, which is a stage of grief, but you have to get to acceptance And I think a lot of people, I talk a little bit in the book about radical acceptance, is literally being able to accept your reality in order to deal with it. So I do think people should give themselves grace and not say, okay, even like people say, well, the first year after somebody passes away, it's the first year that's the hardest, but then you're really supposed to be, get on with it. I don't think you literally get over anyone. You just live to learn with grief. You just live to, you miss that person, or if there's some other thing like a bankruptcy or divorce, it's something to move through.
Right.
But it's definitely not something that you if you get stuck in it, you are going to be frozen in your life for sure.
Yeah. I think you live with a void, so to speak. Many times when I'm working with elders, we say that there is a void inside. And when that person leaves and goes on to their next life, whatever, I just don't call it we try not to call it a death because they aren't dying their actual soul. We think about that as that way. But when we think about it that way, what actually happens is it frees a lot of people to say that I can still feel them around me. I can still sense them around me. And they don't linger in that echelon of, is it a loss or is it this hole in me and I will never, ever, whatever. So people end up healing themselves to be able to thrive even better. I think sometimes the idea of the old words or the old ways that things used to be, or sometimes what we find is defined as, either a medical stature, this is the way things should be or whatever, or we're going to classify it as, the DMS-5, we're going to turn around and give you a code because you're now depressed or you're this, that, or the other. Those fears lingers in many people's minds. And then they try to create an illusion that they're doing better, and they might not be. Mm-hmm. Or they create the illusion that, I was the perpetrator, I was the person who did it, but I'm going to be okay now for whatever. But they never heal or make amends or whatever that might be. So it's really, what kind of ghost are you running from, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, for sure. I mean, are you speaking specifically about the end of life or during someone's life?
Both. It can be in both, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think people are, the way I look at it is I think inherently people are good and doing the best that they can, but they don't really always have the tools. And avoidance is a big issue that I see, trying to outrun things. One of the things I deal with a lot is I did in my own life, but I also see it in some of my clients, is just being perpetually busy. But also, there's always these, again, I think people are, tend to be running from things instead of turning around and dealing with those ghosts or the fears or the negative beliefs. So that's what I try to do in my work with clients, and is to try to help them deal with, again, the reality or deal with what they're running from.
Yeah, that running from thing is pretty, it's a pretty big deal. I think that consumes probably better than 50% of our life for many people. And that running from is the sense of feeling the pain. The running from is from the emotion. The running from could be sense of disconnect. The running from could be what you have done to another or what another has done to you. So that running from has a lot of different aspects in our different decades of life, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that by the time you get to midlife, though, I don't really like the term midlife crisis. But I think that that's what kind of happens when you've finished getting your degrees and building your career and getting all these achievements. I do think that you get to a point in midlife where you have to reevaluate things. And I think that, you have to, am I going to be changing direction here? Am I going to be, what is my life really about? And to me, I feel like you really have to be giving back to other people at that stage, whether it's mentoring or whatever, but especially when you have raised your children and you can pause and evaluate it. I tend to see, though, people don't even do that. They just try to find the next shiny object, or then they want to focus on the grandkids, or they want to just, buy a boat, or, whatever. Right. It's just, it's those material things that are never going to be fulfilling, or, again, what external things do I need to feed the void? Use the void, the word void. But I do think that by the time you're in midlife, you should be definitely embracing what your life is about. And it should not be about achievements or the achievements of your children or the achievements of your grandchildren, but like, what is it about your life? How are you going to utilize the wisdom that you have? And I talk about this at the end of the book, is like, once you are on your survive to thrive journey, how are you going to help others on theirs?
That's so vitally important, I think, Christine, what you just said, because I can tell you so many people that I meet are just, what is good for me? This sort of self-help anymore, anti-aging, I'm going to take care of myself first. All of that has a sense and a purpose in the world, and I understand that you should take care of yourself and all this other stuff. However, people take it to a grand extreme, and they can't even see others around them. I have seen it. It's just in my face quite often that I see other people saying this, and I'm going, okay, what is my purpose here? And just as you shared, it's about sharing our stories and giving. And what we're giving back is we're giving tools, tips, we're giving inspiration, and we're also sharing a possibility of another way, showing it in giving back, showing it in going out and engaging with others, sharing and going out and speaking with others. That's a major part of most people's lives, where they're like, no, I'm just going to teach them. And teach them is totally different from giving back and supporting and inspiring. Perhaps?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I like the way you talk about sharing stories versus, giving advice or teaching per se. Right. I like sharing because then that's more of an interaction. I think that it's not just espousing what we know, but I think it's just trying to look for opportunities to help younger generations, get ahead or be good people. I mean, I think that's what's missing in the world, is there is just way too much. There's a lot of loneliness as a result, but I think there's a lot of focus on self. And not, we're losing community rapidly. And social media is not community. So it's false sense of it. But I do think that being, the idea of being kind to strangers, the idea of lifting people up. I mean, one of the things I really focus on is just putting people, like leveling the playing field. So I focus a lot on helping people that, are disadvantaged. I think about this nonprofit board that I'm on, where we focus on neurodiverse young adults and helping them get employed, and helping sponsored companies and organizations learn more about how to utilize neurodiverse employees in their workplaces. And so, it's that kind of reward where you can, if somebody needs a hand, make sure when you get where you're going, reach behind and give that hand to somebody else. It's going to be super rewarding for those individuals you're helping, but also you will get a great sense of love of your own life.
Don't you think, Christine, just by you showing up, though, and you say leveling the playing field, Just now, myself being a medium, I just totally saw a picture of everybody just being together and saying, wow, this is really cool. And you're taking off the labels of everything, and you're just engaging as regular human beings. You're not saying, I've got this, that, or the other. You need to come follow me this way because this is a way out of the wherever you are because I'm judging you must be in pain or you need to find a way out. You're just saying, I'm here with you. Would you like a cup of coffee? Let's have a sit and let's have a talk. Do you see what I'm saying? So in other words, you're truly engaging people where they are without judgment. You're engaging people without saying this is right or wrong or we have to go this way, or putting your thoughts and beliefs and truths on anyone else. It's allowing them to find their own door, to be able to find their own way. That's what thriving is about. Thriving to you can look totally different to thriving to me, to someone else. And we're not here to say this is the way you're supposed to be. What we're saying is this is the way to open the door and to find your own peace, perhaps?
Right. And your own path. Right. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I talk a lot about in the book second chances. I'm a big believer in people. Part of you learn more about your life, and you learn more in general your lessons of life, I should say, when you make your mistakes, versus your successes. So I think people need, they need to fall down, right? But you're not there. I mean, you can help them up a little bit, but they're the ones who have to, get going again. And to me, I just feel like there is too much judgment in the world. People are written off too easily. I don't know, cancel culture is part of that, but I think that giving people grace and second chances based on learning those life lessons is what we all should be doing.
Right. I truly see a life of thriving as living in grace, honor, and respect. And you're respecting everyone for the soul that they are. You're honoring them for their presence, showing up in whatever way they are. They could be whole, broken, diseased. They could be running, and they could be doing this. It doesn't matter. Those are all just words. And then honoring them with grace. I just think of grace as an extended hand. So I think those three attributes is truly what we're looking for in life, perhaps?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know how I could say it better.
Well, I think truly your book is about being able to find the tools, and you're providing the tools in how to open the door. And I think yours is a great guide because not once have you said this is the way to go. You've just said these are possibilities, yes?
Yeah, I'm just trying to provide a framework. And so one of the things that I do say is that, those are the 4 stages of living that you mentioned. And then, thriving is not the destination. I mean, it is the journey. We've all heard that life is a journey, not a destination. But even when you get to a thriving state, you're going to face things in life where you're going to get a crisis. Some kind of external force is going to push you backwards. And so I'm not trying to tell people that, this is the panacea. You get to, it's like getting to heaven. It's more just like, you get to thriving state. Keep in mind that you're gonna lose someone, or there's going to be some major challenge that happens to you, and you might have to fall backwards into a stabilization. You might have a crisis and go all the way back to surviving, but then the framework is to help you get back. And so once you've gotten to an emerging and thriving state, you know what that feels like, and you know how to get the pathway to get back to it.
Right, because it's almost as if you're giving the template that says, "Ooh, I've been here before. I understand this. Now I know how to be able to navigate." That's what you're really doing, right?
Yeah, and the big reason, one of the reasons I wanted to write the book is that so much you hear so much in the media, or you read an article, or I've heard conversation after conversation where people are saying you're either surviving or thriving.
Right.
And it's really, you cannot get to thriving from survival mode. So that's why I created the framework and that there are steps in between. And that the fact is that being, I do believe, and there's research around the fact that only 20% of people are thriving. They're living up to their full potential, that I actually equate to thriving. And so 80% of people are, I believe, are either in survival mode or they're stabilizing, which there's a risk of stagnation if you stay there. So stagnation is a risk, but it's also a choice. And so what I'm trying to accomplish in the book is to try to get more of the 80%, not all 80%. Some people want to just be content, and that's fine. There's no judgment on that. But I think there's a good chunk of population where they don't want to just be, well, they certainly don't want to be in the survival mode, but they also don't want to just be stable. They want to push themselves a little bit further. And so that's the population I'm trying to reach in the book, is to try to get some of that 80% into the 20%.
So many times patients at end of life, they will say, but this is the way I've known it. This is the way it's been, and this is the way I'll go through the door. But I look at it and I'll say, that's absolutely wonderful, because we really have to honor that their life was exactly what they were able to do with the knowledge that they had. So many times we want to say, but you should have done this, or why can't you do this, or I think you have to do that. And then we get stuck in our own thing of judging the other person, or even judging ourselves. So sometimes,
well, I had a question for you. I was going to ask you, but do you find people have regrets, though? So one of the things I'm trying to help my clients with is not living without regrets, so that at the end of their life, they're saying, I would have done this differently. It's great if you get to the end of your life and say, I did everything I wanted to do and I did it the best I could. But aren't there people, or a lot of people, that get to the end of their life and they wish they had done it differently?
I think that you get all kinds of varying answers, but also, too, I think that there's very much only one or two things you want out of life. You want to love and be loved, and that's it.
Right.
I think all of the rest of the story is just story. And I think it's so important to understand that irregardless of where you are in life or where you are at the end of life, it doesn't matter. What are you really looking for? So just as you share in your book about survival and about thriving and stabilizing and everything, the biggest question you always ask is, what is it you're looking for? Are you looking for love, safety, security, being cared for, to care for others? Those are the only important things in life. Everything else is just a navigating of a way to get there. Someone will say, I want to love. They may go out to be a nurse so they can love other people. They may, you want to care, to feel cared for. You may be a person who goes out and cares for other people. You could also go out and care for nature. You could be a navigator. You could be someone who just cuts grass. And you could say, I'm caring for the world. You see, so I think really getting to the core idea is, what are the things that you are really looking for, and how do you choose to serve in the world? That really is a different way of looking at life. How are you serving, or how are you being a consumer? Don't you think?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love what you just said. Yeah. Are we just consuming and taking, or are we giving and serving? So my hope is you and I both inspire people to be the latter. Right. Yeah, I think truly your book is about being able to say these are some tools and tips. Christine, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work? Sure, I'd love to. So you can find my book on Amazon and other places where you find major books. I have an audio book, which is on Audible and iTunes. You can find me personally. You can find more about the book and also my career and life coaching practice at flexcareersconsulting.com, and I'll spell that Flexcareersconsulting. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Christine Fruehwirth.
Very good. Christine, it was such a pleasure to have you with us here talking about this topic today. Many times people will say, I just need to hear something different to be able to inspire me to be able to say, going, what's up in my life? Where am I? How am I feeling? And how am I navigating? And I think your book is a great to be able to say template to be able to walk through that. Yes?
Yes. Thank you so much for including me today and this evening. And I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to find out more information about Christine Fruehwirth, again, her book is Surviving Life's Storms and Thriving in the Aftermath. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website for more information. And it is about being able to say, I don't know. Once you have that I don't know in your head, it's saying, time to think about something else. Go out, ask questions, listen to some podcasts, read some books, find other tools and tips to be able to help you say, oh, I'm going to let this trigger me. I'm going to see where I am. I'm going to see where I might want to go. Perhaps it will open a door for you. And to find out, are you taking things from the world and just holding on to them for your identity? Or perhaps you are experiencing learning, be able to shape-shift and be able to say, I'm feeling, I'm sensing, and giving it back to others and be in service. It's truly about being able to say, what is the purpose of your life? Ask the questions, and perhaps you'll come up with some new ideas. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit drjeanettegallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.